Hey, what's going on, and welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about seduction. I know it's every guy's favorite thing to talk about, and how to build sexual tension and sexual escalation with a woman. And the first thing I really want to go over is that I think you should really understand what seduction truly is and how to actually use it to your advantage without creeping people out. The biggest mistake that men make is they don't, well, not the biggest mistake, the biggest mistake I see at bars. If you've ever been afraid of being called creepy, or if you've ever been called creepy before, it's a really crappy thing to be called. But the reason why guys are creepy, or actually creep women out in the first place, is because they don't realize that seduction comes later on in an interaction. It can be very quick in an interaction, but it comes after some very crucial steps that have to happen. And if you just check these other steps off, like, okay, I got this one done, got this one done, got this one done, then you can go to seduction and you can be sexual, and it's completely fine. If you just try to jump straight to it, you don't really understand what it means to attract women. You don't understand how women operate, and that's why women think you're. So seduction can be used in a very powerful way, and if you have a relationship, it's what sexually holds the relationship together. It's that bond that keeps the two of you together. If you're not in a relationship and you're just single, it is probably the most powerful manly tool that you can use at your disposal to turn women on. So knowing how to seduce a woman that you've just met is a very, very empowering thing to know. And so what I'm going to go over today is I'm going to go over what seduction is and sort of how to do it in a really short sort of explanation on how to do a couple of techniques that are really quick and easy. So first, what is seduction? Well, seduction is, I guess, contrary to popular belief, seduction is not necessarily sexual. Now, I need to explain what I mean by that. Seduction is an overload of your emotional brain and a deadening of your logical brain. So here's how this works. Your brain has two different major hemispheres, and they basically control, one controls emotion and one controls logic. The problem is they share resources. So if you're being very logical, you're not being very emotional at all. So if you've ever been in a position where you're very, very logical about something, you probably noticed you can make kind of hard decisions that otherwise would have been kind of emotional decisions, and it's easy for you to do. For example, firing someone, or making a purchase decision, or whatever it happens to be. If you're logical at that moment, then your emotional brain. Now, it's also the other way around. If your emotional brain's heightened, you will make really stupid decisions sometimes, and usually very emotional decisions, because your logical brain is deadened at that moment. So if your emotional brain is very heightened, your logical brain is deadened. So when you go through rapport, which is the second stage of an interaction, you are heightening the emotional brain in a woman, and in yourself, to be honest. And what you're doing there is you are exciting that emotional brain so much that their logical brain starts to drop down. And when it drops down to a certain point, they begin to make emotional decisions. Now, there is a certain point at which a woman's logical brain will drop, and when it gets past that point, they hit what's called a red zone response. And this is where if they get too emotionally excited too early, before they build a lot of trust, they will automatically reject an entire situation, you and everything having to do with you, and they will leave because they're afraid they're going to make a bad decision in that moment. And so what you want to do is you want to keep her emotionally heightened, and usually that's as simple as sharing an emotional story. That emotionally heightens women. And also, like I said, it's nothing to do with sex at this point yet. You're just going to start to share your emotions and draw out her emotions and try to transfer that. I have a rapport formula. Again, I go over it in my attraction blueprint that I give away for free. It was for download in the last video, but I'll actually put it below for download. Check it out and go over a little more detail if you want to. But it's just a flow chart where I talk about how to get through attraction and through rapport. And so once you get through rapport, you can build this connection, this strong emotional attachment with each other. Then you are assured that she has a heightened emotional brain. Now, what this means is that once you add sexuality into that situation, you have seduction. And seduction is basically that heightened emotional brain, a deadened logical brain, and any kind of sexual context added in. and that's what creates powerful seduction. So if you just try to walk up and inject sexuality, it's not going to work. If you just try to walk up and build emotional attraction and build that emotional space but never inject sexuality, that won't work either. So what you want to do is you want to do both sort of simultaneously, or at least one right after the other, so that you have that heightened emotional brain and you add that sexuality. One of the best ways that I kind of talked about briefly in the last video is that you can build sexual attraction by thinking about things that turn you on sexually. So this would, again, you want to wait until you're having an emotional conversation with the girl before you start to do this. You can skip steps and you can actually do this really early if you know what you're doing, but I wouldn't suggest doing that yet. It's sort of an advanced technique, and you need to know everything that I teach in the Tao of Badass in order to be able to do that. There's no way to be able to do it other than that, other than knowing what I know. But if you are having that emotional rapport conversation and you start thinking about something, for example, thinking about whatever turns you on, man, whatever it is. I mean, if it's seeing a girl bend over, if it's, you know, tits, if it's, you know, thinking of someone sucking your cock, whatever you have to do, you know, just think about whatever it is and start to get turned on yourself. And as you're having this sort of normal conversation and you start to get turned on, your subconscious mind is going to start to register your dilating pupils, your slightly clenched jaw, your straightened neck, all the things that your dropped shoulders, all the things that you do whenever you are attracted. You know, maybe you soften, like close your eyes just a little bit more. Things that she's seen in patterns when guys have been sexually turned on in the past, she's going to see in you in that moment. And because you're doing that while you have that emotional connection, she's going to be open to it in that moment. So you're going to be touching as well, obviously, and when you get to the stage of seduction and you're touching, you're going to stop taking your hands off of her. You're going to start just touch. When you want to move your hand from her shoulder down to her hand, you're going to slide it from her shoulder to her hand. That's another very important thing to know. You're also going to bring back some of that playfulness. Try looking at her mouth often whenever she's talking, whenever you're talking. It kind of looks like, you know, just like subtle dropping down of your eyes, looking at her mouth like that, just very subtle. And she'll start to pick up on all these things subconsciously. Now, you don't want to make her as consciously aware of the seduction, though I have done that, and it does work, to be honest. Once they're in the state of seduction, there's really nothing they can do to resist that if you do it properly. So that's why I think it's really important that you take full responsibility and you don't bring someone into seduction that doesn't want to go there. And so what I would say to do is to think about something seductive yourself that turns you on while you're talking about something deep, you know, and emotional. You want to look at her mouth often, kind of go back and forth between her eyes and her mouth often when you're talking. Touch her in a more soft and sort of sexual way. Your personality is going to be that of a man now, and less of, like, you know, less of a friend and less of a boy having fun. You're going to be more manly and more powerful. When you touch her softly, but firmly. Don't like have a limp wrist or anything whenever you're touching her. But don't squeeze her too hard or like yank her toward you, or pull her toward you or anything. You want to make sure that you're still being soft because she's delicate. She's a woman, you know. You want to make sure that you don't overpower her too much in a negative way, or else she won't feel comfortable with you physically. The whole point here is to make her feel comfortable with you physically, emotionally, and sexually, all at the same time. It's sort of a perfect storm for doing that. Another thing you can do that I've done often in the past is whenever you start to get in that stage of seduction with a woman where you're starting to see her sort of respond back to you and you want to push things sexual, you're going to have to get a kiss probably first. And the hardest thing, and I taught this earlier, the thing that I've learned that hands down is the best thing to say is to, when you start to see her getting turned on like that sexually around you, or like looking at your mouth and thinking about kissing you. I had a video on this before where she's triangulating. You can tell she's triangulating by whether or not she's looking at your mouth over and over again whenever you're talking to her. Doing that, you want to say, and I quote, "It's okay," and she'll say, "What? What do you mean? What's okay?" And you want to say, "It's okay. You can kiss me. I want to kiss you too." And that's it. And then that's it. Usually you won't have to lean in. You can usually take her by the hand and pull her toward you, and she'll start to lean forward, and then just slowly go into the kiss. Take your time with it. Don't try to rush in and go crazy. Really, like, even as she gets closer, draw your head back a little bit and smile, you know, just a little bit. And then pull her in a little closer and kiss her. And from there, things go very quickly. I mean, you can go from 0 to 60 very fast. at that moment. Seduction, a few seductive techniques. That's just a few of what are like hundreds that I know that work. So check that out and try it out, and go ahead and comment below again. And tomorrow you'll get another special email from me as well. Check it out, and I'll talk to you then. It's been a pleasure, and expect a lot more free content from me. And if you do want to dive in head first, you can go and do that anytime you want to, and grab a copy of the Dial Badass. So I'll talk to you soon, brother.